You live in an age of comfort and distraction. Your thoughts are scattered, your body idle, your spirit dull. But a warrior cannot afford such weakness. I am Musashi. I walked the path of steel, of solitude, of death. I did not wait for the perfect moment. I forged myself in every moment. If you seek to train with purpose, you must first cut away your excuses like a sword through smoke. Discipline begins when no one is watching. Focus must be sharper than the blade you wield. When you strike, strike with the full weight of your intent. No hesitation, no regret. Practice not to appear strong, but to be strong. A true warrior's spirit must never rust. If you are ready to train with clarity, with purpose, and with the mindset of a samurai, then listen closely, and if the way I speak to you resonates, subscribe to this channel, honor this discipline, return for more. In the chaos of your modern world, you seek answers in endless noise. You fill every moment with movement, every silence with sound, every space with distraction. But you have forgotten the most fundamental truth of the warrior's path. Before you can master anything, you must first master nothing. I am Musashi, and I have walked through blood and steel to discover this wisdom. The void, what we call Mu, is not emptiness. It is the source of all power, all purpose, all true action. When I stood before my opponents, it was not my sword that defeated them. It was the void within me, the perfect stillness that sees all and contains all. Picture yourself now, in this moment. Your phone buzzes, notifications flash, thoughts race like leaves in a storm. You call this living. But I call it drowning. A warrior cannot strike true when his mind ripples like disturbed water. You cannot see the path when your eyes dart from shadow to shadow, chasing phantoms of urgency. Let me show you the first step toward true practice. Find a room, any room, and strip it bare. Remove everything that does not serve your purpose. Sit there in the growing silence and feel how it terrifies you. This fear, this discomfort with emptiness, is the first enemy you must defeat. I spent years in mountains and caves, facing this void, not because I sought enlightenment, but because I sought truth. In emptiness, every movement becomes deliberate. Every breath carries weight. Every thought stands naked before you, unable to hide behind the curtain of distraction. The modern warrior faces a battlefield more treacherous than any I encountered. Your enemies are invisible: comfort, convenience, the endless sedation of entertainment. These opponents cannot be defeated with a sword. They must be defeated with silence, with stillness, with the courage to embrace the void. When you begin your practice, any practice, start with 10 minutes of nothing. No music, no guidance, no movement, just you and the void. Your mind will revolt. It will conjure urgent tasks, brilliant ideas, desperate needs. Let them come, let them go. Like a sword cutting through smoke, they have no power unless you give it to them. This is not meditation as your world understands it. This is warriors, stillness. The difference is intent. You are not seeking peace. You are forging steel. Every moment of stillness is an edge being honed. Every breath of silence is a strike being prepared. Think of a sword perfectly polished. It does not reflect its surroundings because it seeks to. It reflects because it has been stripped of everything that is not its true nature. Your mind must become like this sword, not empty for emptiness' sake, but empty so it may reflect reality without distortion. I will teach you many things about practice, about purpose, about the way of the warrior, but understand this: without mastery of the void, all other mastery is built on sand. 1,000 perfect strikes with a clouded mind are worth less than one true strike from stillness. The void is waiting for you. It has always been waiting. In the spaces between your thoughts, in the silence between your breaths, in the stillness between your movements, this is where true practice begins. This is where the warrior is born. Do not confuse this teaching with passive acceptance. The void I speak of is not surrender, it is power in its purest form. It is the space from which all decisive action springs. It is the court from which all true strategy emerges. When you understand this, truly understand it, you will never again mistake activity for achievement, motion for progress, noise for power. You will have taken the first step on the true warrior's path. The void is not emptiness. It is the beginning of everything that matters. I have watched men swing swords 10,000 times and grow no stronger. I have seen warriors practice forms until their bodies move like water, yet they remain hollow vessels, empty of purpose. You do the same in your modern dojos, your gyms, your training halls. You mistake motion for meaning. You confuse repetition with purpose. Let me tell you what I learned in my first real battle, when steel met steel and life hung in the balance. It was not my countless practice swings that saved me. It was the crystal clarity of my intention. Every movement, from the shifting of my feet to the cut of my blade, carried the full weight of my purpose. You train with divided attention, your mind scattered like cherry blossoms in the wind. One part of you goes through the motions while another dreams of dinner, of messages waiting to be read, of tasks left undone. This is not practice. This is ritual without spirit, form without essence. When I speak of intention, I do not mean simply focusing on the task at hand. A true warrior's intention cuts deeper than concentration. It is the fusion of mind, body, and spirit into a single arrow of purpose. Every breath, every heartbeat, every blink of the eye serves this purpose. Picture yourself now in your practice, whether you hold a weight, a sword, or simply stand in stance. Stop. Feel the difference between moving with your body and moving with your entire being. The difference is subtle but vast, like the space between life and death on the battlefield. In my years of wandering, I encountered many skilled swordsmen. Their techniques were flawless, their forms perfect. Yet they fell before my blade, because they had mastered only the surface of their art. They had not grasped that true mastery begins with the intent behind every action. Your modern world speaks of mindfulness as if it were a gentle stream of awareness. But the mindfulness of a warrior is like a razor's edge, sharp, focused, uncompromising. When you practice, each movement should carry the weight of your entire existence. Anything less is merely shadowboxing with yourself. I will teach you how to infuse your practice with true intention. First, before any movement begins, you must know why you move. Not the superficial why, not for strength or skill or praise. Deeper, why does your spirit demand this practice? What truth are you pursuing with each repetition? When you have found this deeper purpose, hold it in your mind like a burning coal. Let it sear away all distraction, all doubt, all hesitation. This is your North Star, your guiding light. Every motion that follows must align with this purpose, must serve this truth. Now, as you begin to move, feel how different your practice becomes. A simple push-up is no longer just an exercise. It is an expression of your warrior's spirit. A basic stance is no longer just a position. It is a declaration of your intent to master yourself. This transformation will not happen in a day, or a week, or even a year. I spent decades refining this understanding, but each moment of true intention builds upon the last like drops of water carving through stone. Eventually, you will find that you cannot practice any other way. The very idea of moving without purpose will become foreign to you. Remember this: a sword swung without intention is just metal moving through air. But a sword swung with full purpose, with complete unity of mind, body, and spirit, can cut through anything, even the illusions that hold you back from your true potential. In your daily practice, begin with this. Before you move, before you lift, before you strike, pause. Feel the weight of your intention gather like storm clouds. Let it fill you until it demands expression through action. Then, and only then, Begin. This is how you transform mere exercise into warrior's practice. This is how you turn empty repetition into meaningful progression. This is how you forge your spirit through movement. For in the end, it is not the number of your practices that will define you. It is the quality of your intention, the depth of your purpose, the clarity of your resolve. A single strike thrown with complete intention is worth more than 1,000 thrown with an empty mind. The sun does not hesitate to rise, and neither should you. In all my years of battle and training, I never once waited for the world to wake me. The warrior who strikes first in the morning strikes first in life. This is not merely about early's rising. It is about commanding the day before the day commands you. You sleep too much, not because your body needs it, but because your spirit is weak. You delay your rising, checking devices, lingering in comfort. Each morning becomes a small surrender, a tiny defeat that builds into a lifetime of mediocrity. This ends now. Let me share with you the ritual that forged my spirit through countless dawns. Before the sun crests the horizon, you must already be in motion. The first moments of consciousness are sacred. Do not pollute them with the noise of the modern world, your phone, your messages, your endless streams of information. They can wait. Rise in darkness. Welcome the cold. Your body will resist. Your mind will create excuses. But these are the voices of weakness. Silence them with action. The moment your eyes open, move. No thought, no hesitation, no negotiation with yourself. This is your first battle of the day, and you must win it decisively. Begin with breath. 3 deep breaths, each one drawing. In strength, expelling weakness, then water. Cold water on your face, down your throat. This is not for comfort or cleansing. It is a signal to your warrior spirit that the day of battle has begun. Next, movement. I trained with the sword at dawn because the world was still and my mind was clear. You may not carry a sword, but your body is your weapon. 20 precise movements, push-ups, squats, or any exercise that demands focus. The number matters less than the intention. Each repetition must be perfect, deliberate, focused. Following movement, stillness, 10 minutes of seated silence. Not meditation as your world understands it, but warrior's contemplation. Review your objectives, sharpen your resolve, prepare your mind for the challenges ahead. This is where you are. Don your mental armor for the day's battles. Then, and only then, do you begin your day's tasks. But you begin them as a warrior who has already conquered the first and most important battle, the battle against your own weakness. You begin them from a position of strength, of clarity, of purpose. This morning ritual is not a suggestion. It is not a life hack or a productivity tip. It is armor for your spirit, a daily forging of your warrior's heart. Miss this ritual, and you enter the day unarmed, unarmored, unprepared for the challenges that await you. Some will say this is too harsh, too demanding. They are the same. Ones who will never understand true strength. The same ones who will always wonder why they cannot achieve their goals, cannot master their circumstances, cannot command their destiny. Your modern world has made you soft, made you believe that comfort is a right and discipline is a choice. But I tell you this, discipline is the only path to true freedom. Your morning ritual is the foundation of this discipline. Do not modify this ritual to make it easier. Do not negotiate with your weakness. The moment you begin to compromise is the moment you begin to fail. The warrior's path is absolute. You either walk it or you don't. Start tomorrow. No preparation needed, no special equipment required. Just the willingness to rise before the sun and face yourself in the darkness. Do this for 30 days without fail, and you will begin to understand what I mean by warrior's strength. For in these early hours, when the world sleeps and excuses die in the darkness, you forge more than just discipline. You forge your warrior's spirit. You build more than just habits. You build armor for your soul. Remember, the sun does not ask permission to rise. The warrior does not ask permission to be strong. Your morning ritual is not a choice. It is a declaration of war against mediocrity, against weakness, against all that holds you back from your true potential. Let me speak a truth that will cut through your excuses like a blade through paper. You are not busy. You are undisciplined. In all my years of combat and training, I never once met a man who was truly too busy to practice. Only men too weak to prioritize what mattered. You say you have no time. I say you waste time like a drunk wastes wine. Your devices consume hours like hungry ghosts. Your notifications interrupt like nervous servants. Your entertainment stretches like endless shadows across the hours you could spend forging yourself into something stronger. Let me show you how a warrior views time. In battle, every heartbeat matters. Every breath could be your last. This urgency, this absolute clarity about the precious nature of time, this is how you must approach your practice, your training, your life. When I wandered Japan seeking worthy opponents, I carried nothing I did not need. I ate simply, slept little, trained, constantly, not because I had more time than you, but because I understood that time is the only resource you can never regain. Once spent, it is gone forever. Look at your day as a warrior would. From the moment you wake to the moment you sleep, where does your time go? Be honest with yourself. Count the minutes spent scrolling through meaningless information. Count the hours lost to pointless discussions, to mindless entertainment, to activities that neither strengthen your body nor sharpen your mind. You claim you are busy, yet you know the plot of every new series, the latest gossip, the trending topics that will be forgotten by next week. A warrior would rather miss 1,000 popular shows than miss a single day of practice. A warrior would rather be uninformed about trivial matters than uninformed about their own capabilities. Here's how you reclaim your time. First, eliminate everything that does not serve your growth. Be ruthless. Your entertainment should be as carefully chosen as a sword before battle. Your relationships should be as deliberately maintained as a warrior's equipment. Your daily activities should be as purposeful as strikes in combat. Next, stack your activities like a master strategist. Your morning training cannot be negotiable. It must be as certain as the sunrise. Your practice sessions must be scheduled with the same urgency as a general plans his battles. Your rest must be as disciplined as your work. When you say you have no time for training, what you really mean is that training is not a priority. When you say you are too busy to practice, what you really mean is that you are too undisciplined to organize your life around what matters. A warrior can train anywhere, at any time. In the minutes between tasks, you can practice breathing. While waiting, you can practice stance. During conversations, you can practice presence. These are not substitutes for dedicated practice. They are additions to it. Stop lying to yourself about being busy. You have the same 24 hours that I had, that every warrior before you had. The difference is not in the time available. It is in how that time is commanded. Your devices, your distractions, your endless scrolling, these are not forced upon you. They are choices you make, moment by moment, to avoid the discomfort of discipline. A warrior faces this discomfort. A warrior seeks it out, knowing that comfort is the enemy of growth. From this moment forward, ban the word busy from your vocabulary. You are either disciplined or you are not. You are either training or you are wasting time. There is no middle ground, no gray area, no excuses. Tomorrow, wake up with this warrior's mindset. See your time as the precious resource it is. Guard it more fiercely than any treasure. Spend it more wisely than any currency. Use it more purposefully than any tool. For in the end, it is not about having time. It is about deserving time. The universe grants more time to those who prove worthy of it through their actions, their discipline, their unwavering commitment to growth. You are not busy. You are simply untrained in the warrior's way of commanding time. But this can change, starting now, starting with your next choice, your next action, your next moment of truth. Every morning when I drew my sword, I accepted that it might be my last. This was not dark thinking, it was perfect clarity. Your modern world shields you from death, hides it away in sterile rooms, speaks of it in whispers. But a warrior must embrace death as a teacher, as a companion, as the ultimate source of purpose. Let me tell you what it means to train with death behind you. Imagine, truly imagine, that this practice session might be your final act on earth. How differently would you move? How much deeper would you focus? How much more meaning would you find in each breath, each movement, each moment of effort? I have faced death 60 times in formal duels, and countless more times in battle. Each encounter taught me the same truth. It is not the fear of death that makes a warrior strong. It is the acceptance of it. When you truly accept that each moment could be your last, every moment becomes infinitely precious. Your training now is soft because your thinking is soft. You believe there will always be tomorrow to try harder, next week to be more focused, next year to finally commit fully to your practice. This is the thinking of the untested, the untried, the unworthy of the warrior's path. Here is how you must train from this day forward. Every session begins with the acknowledgement of mortality, not as a morbid ritual, but as a clarifying force. Feel the presence of death behind you like a shadow, not threatening, but watching, waiting, measuring the worth of your efforts. When fatigue comes, and it will come, remember that death does not care how tired you are. When doubt creeps in, and it will creep in, remember that death does not negotiate. When you want to quit, and you will want to quit, remember that death does not grant second chances. This is not about being grim or fatalistic. It is about being absolutely crystal clear about what matters. When death is your teacher, you learn quickly what is essential and what is waste. You learn that every moment of half-hearted practice is a moment lost forever. You learn that intensity of purpose matters more than length of training. In my life, I have seen men train for decades without purpose, and I have seen men transform themselves in months when they finally understood the urgency of death's presence. The difference was not in their techniques or their strength. It was in their relationship with mortality. Your modern world offers you 1,000 ways to distract yourself from death's reality. But a warrior must pierce through these comfortable illusions. See your practice for what it truly is, a declaration that you will make every moment count, that you will forge yourself into something worthy before death claims you. This is how you must approach each training session, as if it were both, your first and your last. Bring to it the beginner's hunger to learn and the dying man's urgency to achieve. This combination, this warrior's mindset, will transform your practice from mere exercise into sacred ritual. Let me be clear, this is not about worrying about death. It is about using death's reality to cut through all that is false in your training. When you truly train with death behind you, you cannot pretend. You cannot go through the motions. You cannot save your best efforts for another day. Every warrior who has ever achieved greatness has understood this truth. They trained not for tomorrow's battle, but for this moment's worthiness. They pushed themselves not for future glory, but for present truth. They faced each practice session as if it were their final testimony to life. From this day forward, bring death with you to your practice, not as an enemy, but as a witness. Let its presence strip away your excuses, burn away your hesitation, clarify your purpose. Let it remind you with each breath that this moment, this very moment, is all you are guaranteed. For in the end, it is not about how long you train. It is about how truly you train. It is not about how many practices you complete. It is about how completely you practice. Death is the ultimate teacher of this truth, and a warrior is simply one who has learned to listen to this teacher well. Before you ever lift a sword, before you master any technique, you must first forge your body into a weapon. This truth has not changed since my time. Your body is not merely a vessel for your spirit. It is the first and most fundamental blade you will ever wield. In my years of wandering, I saw many warriors who could perform complex techniques, but could not hold a basic stance for an hour. I saw masters of the sword who became winded, climbing a hill. This is not the way of true strength. A warrior's body must be as sharp as their blade, as solid as their resolve. Your modern world has made you forget this. You sit for hours, your spine curved like a bow left in the rain. You eat food that weakens you, drink substances that dull you, breathe as shallowly as a frightened rabbit. Your body has become a sheath that can barely contain your spirit, much less express it with power. Let me teach you how to forge your first blade, your own flesh and bone. Begin with your stance. Right now, wherever you are, stand up. Feel how your weight distributes across your feet. Most of you lean forward, unconsciously rushing toward the future, or lean back, unconsciously retreating from the present. A warrior stands as a mountain stands, rooted, present, immovable. Your breathing betrays your weakness. Watch it now. Is it shallow, irregular, trapped in your chest like a bird in a cage? A warrior's breath moves like waves on the ocean, deep, rhythmic, powerful. It should fill your belly first, then your chest, then lift your shoulders slightly, all in one smooth motion. Practice this until it becomes as natural as silence. Now, your movement. Every action should begin from your center, what we call hara. This is not mystical speaking, it is practical truth. A sword swing that begins from the arms is weak. A strike that begins from the center, that engages the entire body as one unit, cannot be stopped. The same is true for every movement you make. Your training must build this integration. When I trained, I would stand in flowing streams, practicing basic movements for hours. The water taught me about resistance, about flow, about the connection between stability and movement. You have gyms, you have equipment, but do not let these modern tools distract you from fundamental truth. Strength flows from unity of body. Here is how you forge your body into a weapon. First, master basic positions. A warrior should be able to hold a horse stance until their legs burn like fire, then hold it longer. They should be able to maintain perfect posture while sitting. In seiza until their feet go numb, then sit longer. This is not about endurance. It is about transcending the body's first demands to quit. Next, movement. But not the chaotic, purposeless movement I see in your modern training. Every movement should be performed as if under the eyes of death itself. Precision matters more than speed. Control matters more than power. A single perfect push-up teaches more than 100 sloppy ones. Your body requires challenge to grow strong. This does not mean you need complex equipment. I built my strength-carrying water buckets up mountains, splitting wood, practicing sword cuts 10,000 times. Find ways to challenge your body that also serve a purpose. Combine utility with training. This is the warrior's efficiency. Remember this, your body will lie to you. It will tell you it's tired when it still has strength to give. It will tell you it's weak when it merely needs to be tested. A warrior learns to listen to their body's wisdom, but not to its complaints. Pain is not your enemy. Weakness is. Train your body as if preparing it for war, because in truth, you are. Every day is a battle against gravity, against time, against your own tendency toward comfort. Your body must be ready not just for the challenges you expect, but for those you cannot foresee. But do not mistake this for mere physical training. Every physical challenge is also a spiritual one. Every test of the body is a test of the mind. When your muscles scream for you to stop, when your lungs burn for more air, when your limbs shake with fatigue, these are moments of spiritual choice. A warrior chooses to continue. From this day forward, view your body as your first and most loyal weapon. Treat it with the respect a samurai shows his sword. Keep it sharp through training. Keep it strong through challenge. Keep it ready through discipline. For in the end, all other weapons may fail you. But the weapon of your own body, properly forged, will never betray you. A blade may tremble, but the mind that guides it must be as still as the surface of an undisturbed lake. In all my battles, it was not the steadiness of my sword hand that determined victory. It was the unwavering focus of my mind. Your modern world assaults your concentration like 1,000 arrows, but a warrior's mind must remain unpierceable. Let me share what I learned about mental focus through 60 duels to the death. When you face an opponent who seeks your life, your mind cannot afford to wander. Each thought must be as precise as a sword thrust, as clear as a mountain stream, as purposeful as a killing blow. This same quality of mind must be present in all your training. Your attention splinters like poorly forged steel. Even now, as you listen to these words, part of your mind drifts to other concerns, other tasks, other distractions. This scattered thinking is more dangerous than any enemy you will face. A warrior with perfect technique but wavering focus will fall before one whose mind is still and sure. First, you must understand that focus is not tension. Many mistake mental strain for mental strength. True focus is relaxed, alert, ready, like a sword at rest in its scabbard. It does not grasp or clutch at a tension. It simply eliminates all that is not essential to the present moment. Begin with your breath. Right now, as you train, bring your entire attention to the rhythm of your breathing, not controlling it, not forcing it, simply witnessing it with complete awareness. When thoughts arise, do not fight them. See them as clouds passing through the sky of your mind. Acknowledge them, then return to the breath. In combat, a single moment of distraction means death. In your training, each moment of wavering attention is a small death, a failure to be fully alive to the present moment. Whether you are performing a complex technique or simply standing in stance, your mind must be fully present, fully engaged, fully committed. Here is how you develop this unwavering mind. Start with small durations of complete focus. Choose a simple action, a basic stance, a single movement, even just sitting still. Give it your entire attention for 1 minute. No thoughts of the past, no plans for the future, no judgments about your performance. Just pure, clear attention. When you can maintain this for 1 minute, extend it to 5, then 10, then 30. This is not about forcing your mind to be still. It is about developing the warrior's ability to remain present regardless of circumstances. Like a sword cutting through water, your attention should part distractions without being disturbed by them. Your mind will resist this training more fiercely than your body has ever resisted physical challenge. It will create emergencies, remember. Urgent tasks, generate brilliant ideas, anything to escape the discipline of present moment focus. This resistance is your true opponent. Each time you return your attention to the present, you win a small battle in the war for mental mastery. As you train, maintain awareness of your entire being. Feel the contact of your feet with the ground, the position of your spine, the movement of your breath, the state of your mind, all simultaneously, without losing touch with any aspect. This is the beginning of warrior's awareness. Do not mistake this for passive observation. A warrior's focus is active, engaged, ready to respond. Like a perfectly still pond that nonetheless reflects everything above it, your mind should be both calm and acutely aware. This state of alert stillness is your natural power. Everything else is learned. Weakness. When thoughts or emotions arise during training, fear, doubt, pride, anger, do not suppress them. See them clearly, acknowledge their presence, then return to the present moment. A warrior is not one who feels no fear. A warrior is one whose focus remains steady, regardless of what they feel. Practice this throughout your day, not just during formal training. When you eat, eat with full attention. When you walk, walk with complete awareness. When you speak, speak with undivided focus. Each moment is an opportunity to strengthen your warrior's mind. Remember, in battle, a wavering mind means death. In training, a wavering mind means wasted effort. In life, a wavering mind means a scattered existence. The unity of body and spirit that marks a true warrior begins with this, the cultivation of an unwavering mind. From this day forward, train your mind with the same intensity you train your body. Your thoughts should be as disciplined as your movements, your focus as sharp as your sword. For in the end, it is not the strength of your techniques that will determine your success. It is the strength of your mind that will determine everything. In my time, we faced enemies of flesh and steel. But you face a more insidious opponent, comfort. It surrounds you like a warm bath, dulling your edges, softening your resolve, whispering that ease is the path to happiness. Let me tell you what every warrior knows. Comfort is a poison that kills slowly but surely. Your homes are too warm in winter, too cool in summer. Your beds are too soft, your foods too rich, your entertainment too constant. You have forgotten that the human spirit, like a sword, is forged in fire, not in gentle warmth. Your comfort does not protect you. It weakens you, makes you vulnerable to life's inevitable hardships. I slept on wooden floors, ate simple food, trained in rain and snow and burning sun. Not because I sought hardship for its own sake, but because I understood that comfort is the enemy of growth. Your muscles do not strengthen without resistance. Your mind does not sharpen without challenge. Your spirit does not grow without adversity. Look at your life now. How many of your choices are made to avoid discomfort? How often do you choose the easier path, the softer option, the more pleasant route? Each time you surrender to comfort, you surrender a piece of your potential strength. Here is how a warrior defeats the enemy of comfort. First, identify where comfort has made you weak. Do you avoid training when it's too cold, too hot, too early, too late? These are not valid reasons. They are comfort's whispers, trying to keep you soft and safe and small. Begin with your sleeping habits. Your bed is too comfortable. It traps you in sleep longer than necessary, makes you reluctant to rise. Place a wooden board under your mattress. Gradually reduce the softness of your pillows. Train yourself to wake instantly like a warrior responding to danger. Next, your environment. You keep your spaces too regulated, too pleasant. Train in the cold until the cold means nothing to you. Practice in the heat until the heat becomes irrelevant. Let rain touch your skin without causing you to seek shelter. Weather should not dictate a warrior's actions. Your food, simplify it. I do not mean to eat poorly, but to eat with purpose. Rich foods, constant snacks, sugary drinks. These are comfort's weapons against your discipline. A warrior eats to maintain strength, not to please the tongue. Learn to be satisfied with simple, nutritious food. Even in your training, comfort tries to seduce you. You stop when movements become difficult. You rest when muscles begin to burn. You avoid the exercises that challenge you most. This is comfort speaking, not wisdom. A warrior pushes past the first barrier of discomfort, then the second, then the third. But understand this, I do not speak of pointless suffering. There is no virtue in hardship without purpose. Every comfort you reject must serve your growth. Every discomfort you embrace must forge you stronger. A warrior chooses their challenges with wisdom, not with pride. Start small, but start today. Take a cold shower, sleep on a harder surface, train in uncomfortable weather, eat simpler foods. Let your body remember its natural resilience. Let your mind recall its innate strength. These are not punishments, they are rememberings of what you truly are. Your modern world will call this extreme. People will question why you reject comfort when it's so readily available. Remember this, comfort has never produced anything great. Every achievement that inspires you, every feat that awes you, every victory that moves you, these came from those who were willing to be uncomfortable. When you embrace discomfort with purpose, something remarkable happens. You stop fearing it. The cold becomes refreshing. Physical challenge becomes invigorating. Mental strain becomes strengthening. What others avoid, you learn to welcome as an opportunity for growth. This is not about living in constant hardship. It is about building the strength to face whatever life presents. When you can be at peace in discomfort, you become truly unstoppable. No circumstance can break you, because you have already broken comfort's hold over you. From this day forward, view comfort as your enemy, not with hatred, but with clear understanding of its dangerous nature. Every time you choose the harder path, the more challenging option, the less comfortable route, you strike a blow against this modern enemy. You reclaim a piece of your warrior's spirit. For in the end, life will not always be comfortable. Challenges will come, hardships will arise, battles will need to be fought. The warrior who has mastered comfort will face these moments with strength, while those who have surrendered to comfort will break like waves against rocks. 1,000 cuts, 10,000 cuts, 100,000 cuts. In my lifetime, I have performed the same basic sword movements more times than there are stars in the night sky. Your modern mind rebels against such repetition. It craves variety, novelty, constant change, but listen carefully. True mastery lives in the realm of repetition. Let me tell you what I learned from cutting bamboo 10,000 times. The first 1,000 cuts were about learning the movement. The next 1,000 were about refining it. The 1,000 after that were about perfecting it. But the thousands that followed, they were about transcending the movement entirely, about reaching a place where the sword and I were no longer separate entities. You avoid repetition because you misunderstand its purpose. You think it is about memorizing a movement, about building muscle memory. This is only the surface. True repetition is a meditation, a prayer, a journey into the depths of an action, until you discover its essence. When I teach you to repeat an action, I am not asking you to do the same thing over and over. I am asking you to explore the same moment with ever-deepening awareness. Each repetition should be a new discovery, a fresh investigation, a deeper understanding. Here is how you must approach repetition. First, choose a fundamental movement. It could be a basic strike, a stance transition, a blocking motion, something simple enough to perform correctly, but complex enough to contain depths you haven't yet fathomed. Begin slowly. The first 100 repetitions are about perfect form. No rushing, no assumptions, no autopilot. Feel every aspect of the movement, the weight shifts in your feet, the engagement of each muscle, the path of your breath, the focus of your mind. As you continue, do not allow your attention to wander. Each repetition deserves your full presence. When your mind tries to escape the monotony, and it will try, bring it back to the movement. This is not just physical training. It is training in sustained awareness. After 500 repetitions, you will think you understand the movement. After 1,000, you will realize how little you knew at 500. After 5,000, the movement begins to teach you things you could never have discovered through variety alone. This is what happened in my own training. Through endless repetition of basic cuts, I began to understand not just swordsmanship, but the nature of movement itself. Through countless hours in basic stances, I learned not just stability, but the essence of rootedness in life. Your modern training methods jump from exercise to exercise, from technique to technique, never allowing anything to truly take root. This is the path of perpetual beginnership. A warrior would rather master one movement than dabble in 1,000. When fatigue sets in, and it will, do not stop. This is where the deeper learning begins. When your body is tired, when your mind begs for variety, when your spirit feels worn, this is the threshold of transformation. Push through it. You must understand, repetition is not about reaching a goal. It is not about achieving a certain number. It is about entering a state of consciousness that only reveals itself through dedicated, focused repetition. This state cannot be rushed, cannot be forced, cannot be faked. In my wanderings, I met many warriors who could perform hundreds of techniques, but when faced with real combat, they hesitated, thinking about which technique to use. I defeated them with a single cut, the same cut I had practiced tens of thousands of times. This is the power of sacred repetition. Do not concern yourself with looking skilled. Do not worry about appearing advanced. These are ego's concerns, and ego has no place in warrior's practice. Focus instead on diving deeper into each repetition, on discovering what can only be found through patient, persistent practice. Your training from this day forward must include this element of sacred repetition. Choose one movement, one technique, one principle. Practice it until your body knows it better than your mind does. Practice it until it becomes as natural as breathing. Practice it until it reveals its secrets to you. Remember, the ocean waves have been hitting the shore in the same way for millions of years. Each wave is both the same and completely new. This is how you must view your repetitions, each one familiar yet fresh with possibility, each one an opportunity to discover something you missed in all the thousands before, for in the end, it is not variety that makes a warrior strong. It is the depth of understanding that can only come through sacred repetition. The sword that has cut 10,000 times carries wisdom that no amount of theory can provide. In all my years of combat, I never once met a truly dangerous warrior who trained to be seen. The deadliest swordsman I encountered practiced in shadows, in silence, in solitude. Your modern world has corrupted training with the poison of performance. Every movement must be photographed, every achievement broadcast, every practice session turned into spectacle. Let me tell you what happens. When you train for others' eyes, your focus splits like poorly forged steel. Part of you performs the movement, while another part watches yourself performing it. This division is fatal to true mastery. A warrior who thinks about how they look while striking will hesitate at the crucial moment. Your social media platforms have become dojos of illusion, where form is valued over function, appearance over essence, likes over mastery. You post your training videos, count your followers, measure your worth in views and comments. This is the path of the peacock, not the warrior. When I developed my two-sword technique, I practiced for years in mountain forests, where no eye could see my failures, no audience could praise my progress. This solitude was not about secrecy, it was about purity of purpose. Every movement was for mastery alone, every repetition dedicated solely to improvement. Here is how you must train from this day forward. First, eliminate all mirrors from your training space. You do not need to see yourself to know if a movement is true. Your body will tell you through sensation, your spirit through intuition, your practice through results. Next, lock away your devices when you train. No recordings, no photos, no sharing. If you must document your practice for legitimate study, do it sparingly with clear purpose, not for display. A warrior's training journal is private, like a sword kept in its scabbard until needed. When you practice, imagine you are invisible. No one will ever see these movements. No one will ever praise your form. No one will ever know your achievements. How differently would you train? What pretenses would fall away? What true effort would emerge when all performance anxiety dissolves? The ego craves witnesses, craves validation, craves applause, but these cravings are chains that bind you to mediocrity. True growth happens in moments no one sees, in the early morning darkness, in the quiet hours of repeated practice, in the private battles against your own limitations. I have seen warriors with beautiful technique crumble in real combat because they had trained for appearance rather than effectiveness. Their movements looked perfect in practice but lacked the raw truth that comes only through training without concern for how one appears. Your modern fitness culture has created a pageant of perpetual performance. Every exercise must be filmed, every workout shared, every achievement immediately broadcast to the world. This constant exhibition creates a shallow form of training where the documentation becomes more important than the deed. Train instead like the ancient warriors trained, in silence, in solitude, in sacred focus. Let your practice be a private dialogue between your spirit and your discipline. The only witness you need is your own unwavering awareness. This is not about hiding your practice, it is about purifying it. When you train without thoughts of being seen, your movements become more honest, your effort more sincere, your progress more genuine. The energy that once went into performance now feeds directly into mastery. Remember this: true power does not need to be displayed to be real. A master swordsman does not need to prove his skill. It emanates from his being without effort. Your practice should build this kind of quiet power, the kind that becomes evident only when needed. From this day forward, make your practice a private ceremony. Train as if you were invisible, as if your movements would never be seen by another living soul. Let go of the need to be witnessed, to be validated, to be praised. Find instead the pure joy of practice for its own sake. For in the end, the warrior who trains for show will always be a slave to others' opinions, while the warrior who trains in silence will find a freedom and power that no audience can give or take away. In my lifetime, I never took a permanent student. I walked alone, trained alone, fought alone. Your modern world fears solitude like a plague, fills every quiet moment with noise, crowds every empty space with distraction. But listen carefully. True strength can only be forged in solitude. You surround yourself with training partners, with coaches, with endless chatter about technique and theory. You fill your practice with music, with conversation, with social interaction. This constant companionship is not support, it is dependency. A warrior must first learn to stand alone. Let me tell you what I learned in my years of solitary training. When you are truly alone, you cannot hide from yourself. There is no one to blame for your failures, no one to praise your successes, no one to distract you from the raw truth of your current state. This brutal honesty is the beginning of true strength. Your modern dojos, your gyms, your training groups, they can serve a purpose, but they can also become crutches, ways to avoid the essential confrontation with your own weaknesses. In a group, it's easy to match the energy of others, to ride their momentum, but this borrowed strength is not your own. Here is how you must train in solitude. First, find a time when the world sleeps, the early hours before dawn, when silence blankets the earth. This is your warrior's sanctuary. No phone, no music, no companions, just you and your practice, stripped of all pretense. Begin with stillness. Stand alone in your training space. Feel the weight of solitude press against you. Your mind will try to escape this pressure. It will create urgent tasks, remember important messages, generate brilliant ideas. Let all of these pass like clouds in an empty sky. Your movements in solitude must be different from your movements in company. When no one watches, when no one waits, when no one judges, how do you truly move? Find this authentic movement. It may be slower, more deliberate, less concerned with appearance. This is your true form emerging. The hardest battle you will face in solitude is against your own mind. It will demand companionship, crave distraction, insist that training alone is somehow less effective. These are the voices of weakness. A warrior learns to find strength in silence, power in solitude. I spent years practicing sword cuts in remote mountains, facing only trees and sky. These silent hours taught me more than any teacher could. Solitude, every movement becomes a question you must answer yourself. Every challenge becomes a battle you must win alone. Your training must include these periods of complete solitude. Not just physical solitude, though that is essential, but mental solitude as well. Learn to practice without mental chatter, without internal dialogue, without the constant commentary of your thinking mind. This is not about rejecting all companionship or guidance. There are times for learning from others, times for sharing experience, times for testing your skills against worthy opponents. But the core of your practice, the heart of your development, must happen in solitude. In my wanderings, I met many warriors who were strong in groups but weak alone. They could fight well with companions but faltered when isolated. This is not true strength. True strength is what remains when all support falls away, when you stand alone against your challenges. Your modern world will tell you this is extreme. It will speak of the importance of community, of shared experience, of group energy. These have their place. But a warrior must first build their strength in solitude, must first become unshakable alone before they can truly contribute to any group. Begin today. Find 1 hour of complete solitude for your practice. No phone, no music, no companions, no distractions. Just you and your training, stripped to its essence. At first, this solitude will feel like deprivation. Eventually, it will feel like power. Remember, the mightiest trees grow alone, drawing strength from soil and sky without dependence on others. Your strength must grow the same way, rooted in solitude, nourished by silence, reaching toward mastery through your own unwavering effort. For in the end, every great battle, whether physical, mental, or spiritual, must be fought alone. The warrior who has made peace with solitude, who has found strength in isolation, cannot be broken by any external circumstance. In all my duels, I never once blamed my sword for a defeat. I have won battles with broken blades, with wooden sticks, with tools that others would consider worthless. Your modern world has deceived you into believing that excellence requires perfect equipment. Let me show you why this thinking makes you weak. You wait for the perfect gear before beginning your practice. You blame your tools for your failures. You believe that newer, better equipment will somehow transform your training. This is the thinking of a merchant, not a warrior. A true warrior can excel with any tool because their power comes from within. When I developed my two-sword technique, I practiced first with tree branches, not because I couldn't acquire proper swords, but because I understood that mastery begins in the mind and spirit, not in the tool. A wooden stick in the hands of a master is more deadly than a fine sword in the hands of a fool. Your gyms are filled with specialized equipment, each machine designed for a specific purpose. But what happens when these perfect tools are not available? What happens when circumstances force you to train with less? This dependency on ideal conditions is a weakness you must eliminate. Here is how you must train from this day forward. First, take your most basic tools. If you train with weights, use the simplest ones. If you practice strikes, use the most basic target. Strip away all the fancy equipment that your modern world tells you is necessary. Begin your practice with these inferior tools. Feel how your body and mind must work harder to achieve the same results. Feel how this challenge forces you to focus more intensely, to engage more fully, to find solutions within yourself rather than in your equipment. When I wandered Japan, I would sometimes train with a heavy branch while others practiced with finely crafted swords. They laughed, not understanding that I was building something they couldn't see. Every imperfection in my tool forced me to become more perfect in my movement. Your training must embrace this principle of deliberate disadvantage. Train in poor conditions. Practice with imperfect tools. Force yourself to excel despite and because of these limitations. This is how you build true strength. Strength that doesn't depend on external factors. I have seen warriors with the finest equipment fail in basic combat because they never learned to rely on themselves. Their skill was borrowed from their tools, not built from within. When their perfect conditions vanished, their power vanished with them. This is not about rejecting good tools when they are available. It is about building the kind of mastery that transcends the tool itself. When you can excel with inferior equipment, your power with superior tools becomes truly formidable. Make your practice deliberately harder through your choice of tools. If you train with weights, sometimes use awkward objects instead. If you practice strikes, sometimes use targets that are less than ideal. Let each limitation become a source of strength. Your modern world will tell you this is foolish. It will say that better equipment means better results. This is the wisdom of merchants, not warriors. A warrior knows that true power is internal, that any tool is merely an extension of the spirit that wields it. Start today. Look at your training equipment. What can you simplify? What can you make more challenging through deliberate limitation? Where have you become dependent on perfect conditions? These are the areas where you must focus your practice. Remember, the warrior who can excel with poor tools will be unstoppable with good ones. But the warrior who needs perfect equipment will always be limited by their dependencies. Build the kind of strength that transcends your tools. For in the end, it is not the quality of your equipment that determines your mastery. It is the quality of your spirit, the depth of your practice, the intensity of your will. These cannot be bought, cannot be borrowed, cannot be found in any tool, no matter how perfect. In my life, I have been defeated, humiliated, and brought to my knees more times than I can count. Each defeat was a master more valuable than any victory. Your modern world fears failure, runs from it, tries to sanitize it away. But listen carefully. Failure is not your enemy. It is your greatest teacher. Let me tell you about my first real defeat. I was young, proud, certain of my skill. My opponent was older, slower, seemingly less capable. In my arrogance, I rushed in, sword raised, high. In the next moment, I was on the ground, my technique shattered, my confidence broken. This defeat taught me more than 100 victories. You avoid failure at all costs. You choose exercises you know you can complete, practice techniques you've already mastered. Stay within the safe boundaries of your current abilities. This comfort with mediocrity is more dangerous than any defeat. A warrior seeks out failure as a sword seeks out weakness in armor. In your training, you must learn to love failure, not the shallow failure of half-hearted attempts, but the deep, honest failure that comes from pushing beyond your limits. When your muscles fail during a difficult exercise, when your mind fails to maintain focus, when your spirit fails to overcome fear, these are moments of pure teaching. Here is how you must approach failure. First, stop seeing it as an end point. Failure is not a wall that stops you. It is a guide that shows you where you must go next. When you fail at a movement, at a technique, at a challenge, you have just discovered exactly what you need to practice. Begin to seek out failures actively. Choose exercises that you know will break you. Attempt techniques that are currently beyond your skill. Face challenges that you are not yet ready to overcome. Each failure becomes a map of your weaknesses, a blueprint for your growth. I spent years seeking out stronger opponents, knowing they would defeat me. Each defeat stripped away another layer of delusion, revealed another weakness to be overcome. This is how true strength is built, not through comfortable success, but through instructive failure. Your training must become a deliberate exploration of your limitations. When you practice, push until you fail, then push again, then again. Each failure is a lesson, written in the language of your own limitations. Learn to read this language fluently. But understand this, I do not speak of reckless failure, of mindless throwing yourself against obstacles. Each failure must be analyzed, understood, integrated into your knowledge. A warrior learns from defeat by reflecting deeply on its causes, its nature, its lessons. This is what separates the master from the novice, not the absence of failure, but the relationship with it. A novice tries to avoid failure. A warrior courts it, studies it, extracts its wisdom. Every great technique I developed came from understanding my failures more deeply than my successes. Your modern world will tell you to focus on your successes, to build on your strengths, to stay positive. This is the thinking of merchants and politicians. A warrior knows that strength is forged in the furnace of failure, that growth comes from confronting and overcoming weakness. Begin today. In your next training session, seek out failure. Choose an exercise that you know will defeat you. Attempt a challenge that you are not yet ready to overcome. Face your limitations with clear eyes and unwavering spirit. Remember, the warrior who has never failed has never pushed hard enough to discover their true strength. The warrior who fears failure will always remain weaker than their potential. The warrior who embraces failure as a teacher will find power beyond their imagining. When you fail, and you will fail, again and again, do not turn away. Stutcho. Not make excuses. Do not seek comfort. Instead, look deeply into the nature of your failure. What weakness did it reveal? What lesson did it teach? What truth did it show you about yourself? For in the end, it is not your successes that will make you strong. It is your relationship with failure that will determine your growth. 1,000 victories over easy opponents teach less than one honest defeat at the hands of a superior force. In all my battles, it was never the complexity of technique that determined victory. I have defeated masters of intricate sword forms with simple, direct strikes. Your modern world has become lost in tactics, in endless techniques, in complicated strategies. But listen carefully. True strategy flows from spirit, not from thought. You study techniques like a scholar collecting scrolls. You memorize combinations, practice complex patterns, accumulate more and more tactical knowledge. But in real combat, in real challenges, all this mental clutter becomes a chain that binds you. A warrior's strategy must emerge from deeper waters. Let me tell you what I learned through 60 duels to the death. When blade meets blade, when life hangs in the balance, all your clever tactics evaporate like morning mist. What remains is the pure expression of your warrior spirit. This is why I say, strategy is spirit, not tactics. Your training has become a collection of techniques, a library of movements, a database of options. But true strategy cannot be contained in any technique. It flows from your entire being, your character, your spirit, your understanding of reality itself. This is what your modern tactical thinking has forgotten. Here is how you must approach strategy. First, empty your mind of techniques. Let go of all the complicated patterns you have learned. Stand in basic stance, breathe deeply, and feel the strategy that emerges from your warrior spirit. This is your true north, your genuine power. Begin with the simplest movements. A direct strike, a basic block, a fundamental stance. But perform these not as techniques to be mastered, but as expressions of your warrior spirit. Feel how different. This approach is from mere tactical execution. When I developed my strategy of 2 swords, it did not come from tactical analysis. It emerged from my understanding of the nature of combat itself, from my warrior spirit seeking its truest expression. The techniques followed the strategy, not the other way around. Your training must shift from collecting techniques to cultivating spirit. When you practice, do not think about how many techniques you know. Focus instead on how purely you can express your warrior nature through each movement, no matter how basic. This is not about rejecting technique entirely. Techniques are tools, and tools have their place, but they must serve your spirit, not define it. A warrior's strategy flows from their entire being, their character, their understanding, their fundamental nature. I have seen warriors with vast technical knowledge fall before the simple, direct expression of true warrior spirit. Their strategies were built on shifting sand, on thought, on analysis, on tactical complexity. True strategy must be built on the bedrock of spirit. Your modern martial arts, your combat sports, your training methodologies, they have become obsessed with tactics. They analyze angles, study patterns, develop counters to counters to counters. But they have forgotten that all true strategy emerges from spirit. Start today. In your next practice session, set aside all thoughts of technique. Move from your center, from your warrior spirit. Let your strategy emerge naturally from who you are, not from what you have learned. Feel the difference between tactical thinking and spiritual knowing. Remember, the greatest strategy cannot be taught because it must emerge from your own spirit. It cannot be copied because it must be an expression of your own nature. It cannot be planned because it must flow naturally from your warrior's heart. Your modern world will call this mystical thinking. It will demand practical techniques, concrete tactics, measurable strategies. But a warrior knows that the deepest practicality, the most effective strategy, comes from the pure expression of trained spirit. For in the end, tactics are tools, but strategy is the hand that wields them. And that hand must be guided not by thought alone, but by the entirety of your warrior spirit. This is the difference between fighting with technique and fighting with true strategic understanding. In my lifetime, I never once took a day off from practice without absolute necessity. Not because I was obsessed, but because I understood a truth your modern world has forgotten. Every day without practice is not merely a pause. It is a step backward, a small surrender, a crack in your warrior's armor. You speak of rest days, of recovery, of the importance of breaks. There is wisdom in managing your energy, but you have twisted this wisdom into permission for laziness. A warrior does not need rest from practice. They need different forms of practice, different ways of forging their spirit. Let me tell you what happens when you skip a day of training. Your body begins to soften, like a sword left in the rain. Your mind begins to wander, like a horse without reins. Your spirit begins to doubt, like a flame in the wind. One day becomes two, becomes a week, becomes a habit of weakness. I have seen warriors with great potential fall into mediocrity through the accumulation of missed practices. Each day they skipped seemed small, seemed harmless. But these small surrenders gathered like drops of water, eventually eroding their strongest resolve. Here is how you must view practice. It is not an activity you do. It is a way you live. Every moment is an opportunity for practice. Every breath is a chance to strengthen your spirit. Every movement can be an expression of your warrior's path. Begin to understand that practice takes many forms. When your body is tired from yesterday's training, practice breath control. When your muscles need recovery, practice mental focus. When circumstances prevent physical training, practice spiritual discipline. There is always a way to practice. In my years of wandering, I trained through illness, through injury, through exhaustion. Not with foolish intensity that breaks the body, but with wise persistence that strengthens the spirit. Even when I could not swing a sword, I practiced stance. Even when I could not stand, I practiced breathing. Your training must become as natural as eating, as regular as sleeping, as necessary as breathing. Missing practice should feel as wrong as missing a meal, as uncomfortable as missing sleep, as unthinkable as holding your breath indefinitely. But understand this. I do not speak of mindless, grinding repetition that destroys body and spirit. Practice must be sustainable, must be nurturing even as it challenges you. The key is not the intensity of each session, but the unwavering consistency of your commitment. This is what separates the master from the amateur. Not the intensity of their strongest days, but the consistency of their practice through all days. An amateur practices when conditions are perfect. A warrior practices because practice itself is the path. Your modern world will tell you about the importance of work-life balance, of taking breaks, of not being too extreme. This is the wisdom of merchants and comfort seekers. A warrior knows that true balance comes not from alternating between practice and non-practice, but from finding the right practice for each moment. Start today. Make a vow to practice every day, without exception, but practice wisely. Some days hard, some days soft, some days physical, some days mental, some days spiritual. Let your practice adapt to your circumstances while your commitment remains unshakable. Remember, the warrior who practices only when convenient will be defeated by the warrior who practices regardless of convenience. The warrior who trains only when conditions are perfect will be unprepared when conditions are imperfect. When circumstances seem to prevent your usual practice, do not accept this as an excuse to skip training. Instead, ask yourself, how can I practice today? What aspect of my warrior's path can I strengthen in these conditions? There is always a way. For in the end, it is not the intensity of your strongest practice that forges you into a warrior. It is the unwavering consistency of your daily commitment. Every day you practice, you step forward on the path. Every day you don't, you step backward. There is no standing still. In all my battles, the greatest victories were not won against external opponents, but against my own impulses, my own emotions, my own undisciplined nature. Your modern world celebrates self-expression, emotional release, the unleashing of desires. But listen carefully. If you do not control yourself, you will be controlled. You live at the mercy of your emotions, your impulses, your reactions. One moment angry, the next elated, then discouraged, then inspired, constantly blown about by the winds of feeling like leaves in a storm. This is not freedom. This is the deepest form of slavery. Let me tell you what true control means. It is not the suppression of emotion, but the mastery of it. When I faced death in combat, fear arose, but it did not control my sword. When I achieved victory, joy arose, but it did not cloud my vigilance. This is the warrior's way. Your training has focused on external techniques, on physical skills, on visible achievements, but the greatest battlefield lies within. Every impulse that you follow blindly, every emotion that controls your actions, every desire that pulls you from your path, these are defeats more dangerous than any external enemy. Here's how you must train for self-control. First, become aware of your internal landscape. Notice how emotions arise, how impulses beckon, how reactions form. Don't fight them yet. Simply observe them with warrior's awareness. This awareness itself is the beginning of control. Begin with small challenges. When anger rises, observe it without acting on it. When fear emerges, face it without fleeing from it. When desire calls, acknowledge it without being ruled by it. Each small victory of awareness over impulse builds your warrior's spirit. In my years of training, I learned that the most dangerous opponent is not the one standing before you with a sword. It is the one within you that flinches, that hesitates, that acts from emotion rather than strategy. This inner opponent must be mastered before any external victory is possible. Your practice must include this internal dimension. Each physical movement should be an expression of controlled power, not emotional reaction. Each technique should emerge from centered awareness, not impulse. Each session should strengthen your command over yourself. This is not about becoming cold or emotionless. A warrior feels deeply, but is not controlled by those feelings. Like a master swordsman who knows when to strike and when to wait, you must learn to feel your emotions fully while maintaining perfect command over your actions. I have seen warriors with great physical skill fall because they could not control their anger, their fear, their desire for victory. All their external training meant nothing because they had not mastered their internal landscape. This is why I say, self-control is the foundation of all other control. Your modern world will tell you to express yourself, to let it all out, to be authentic in your emotions. This is the path of weakness. True authenticity comes not from expressing every impulse, but from choosing consciously which impulses serve your warrior's path. Start today. In your next training session, observe how many of your movements are reactions rather than choices. Notice how emotions influence your practice, how impulses direct your efforts. Begin the process of transforming emotional reaction into strategic response. Remember, the warrior who cannot control their own nature will always be controlled by it. The warrior who can master their internal landscape becomes truly unconquerable. No external force can defeat one who has first defeated their own undisciplined nature. Make every aspect of your training an exercise in self-control. Control your breath, not just its pattern, but its relationship to your emotions. Control your movement, not just its form, but its connection to your impulses. Control your mind, not just its focus, but its freedom from reactive patterns. For in the end, it is not external circumstances that determine your path. It is your relationship with your own nature. The warrior who has mastered themselves has mastered the greatest battlefield. All other victories flow from this primary triumph. Within every person live two selves, one that strives for greatness and one that craves comfort, one that pushes toward challenge and one that pulls toward ease, one that grows through adversity and one that shrinks from it. Listen carefully. For a warrior to emerge, one of these selves must die. The part of you that seeks ease is not your friend. It speaks with a gentle voice, offers reasonable excuses, provides comfortable alternatives to difficult choices. It is the voice that says, "Rest today, train tomorrow." The voice that whispers, "Good enough," when excellence is possible. This voice must be silenced. Let me tell you what I learned through years of facing death. When your life hangs in the balance, when blade meets blade, when victory or defeat hinges on a single moment, the self that seeks ease becomes your executioner. Every comfort it offered becomes a weakness that kills you. You have been taught to nurture both selves, to find balance between striving and ease. This is the thinking of merchants and politicians. A warrior knows that these two selves cannot coexist. Every time you listen to the voice of ease, you weaken the voice of greatness. Here is how you must wage this internal war. First, identify the voice of ease in all its disguises. It comes as reasonable advice, "You've trained enough today," as wise counsel. Everyone needs rest. As friendly concern, "Don't push too hard." Learn to recognize these as the weapons they are. Begin to systematically starve this self that seeks comfort. When it suggests taking the easier path, choose the harder one. When it advises rest, push forward. When it counsels caution, advance boldly. Each time you deny its counsel, you weaken its hold over you. In my own training, I discovered that the self-seeking ease never dies quietly. It fights back with increasingly subtle weapons. Physical fatigue transforms into mental doubt. Simple. Tiredness becomes complex philosophical arguments for moderation. Each weapon must be recognized and defeated. Your training must become a deliberate assault on your comfort-seeking self. Each session should push past the first urge to stop, past the second, past the third. Not with mindless brutality, but with warrior's wisdom, knowing that each comfort denied is a strength gained. But understand this, I do not speak of destroying your body or breaking your spirit. The warrior's path is not one of meaningless suffering. It is about killing the part of you that chooses ease over growth, comfort over strength, safety over mastery. This is what separates the warrior from the practitioner. Not their techniques, not their strength, not their skill, but their relationship with ease. A practitioner trains until it becomes uncomfortable. A warrior trains through discomfort until it becomes irrelevant. Your modern world will call this extreme. It will speak of self-care, of work-life balance, of the importance of comfort. These are the words of the self that must die. A warrior cares for their instrument, body, mind, and spirit, precisely by not indulging its demands for ease. Start today. In your next training session, identify every moment when the voice of ease speaks. Notice its suggestions, its reasoning, its attempts to pull you toward comfort. Then do exactly what it fears. Push harder, go further, demand more of yourself. Remember, the self that seeks ease cannot be negotiated with, cannot be reformed, cannot be balanced against. It must be recognized as the enemy it is and systematically destroyed through consistent, conscious choice of the harder path. When you feel resistance to training, when you hear the voice of ease offering its reasonable excuses, recognize this as the battlefield it is. Every time you choose discomfort over comfort, challenge over ease, growth over safety, you win. A small battle in this war, for in the end, it is not your external enemies that will defeat you. It is this internal voice of ease that will betray you in the crucial moment. The warrior who has killed their comfort-seeking self becomes truly indomitable, because they have eliminated their greatest weakness. In my final teaching to you, understand this truth that took me a lifetime to grasp. You are not becoming a weapon. You already are one. Your body, your mind, your spirit, these are not separate tools to be acquired, but aspects of the same blade that must be sharpened daily. Everything I have taught you about solitude, about discipline, about facing death and defeating ease, all of it points to this singular truth. The weapon you seek is not external to you. It is not something you will one day become. It is what you already are, waiting to be honed to lethal sharpness. Let me share what I learned in my final battles. The difference between victory and defeat was never about becoming something other than what I was. It was about stripping away everything that dulled my edge, everything that clouded my purpose, everything that made me less than the weapon I already was. You search endlessly for new techniques, new methods, new approaches, always looking outside yourself for the power that already lies within. This endless seeking is itself a form of dullness. A sword does not need to become something else to cut well. It needs only to be sharpened. Here is your final instruction. Stop trying to become and start sharpening what is. Your body is already a weapon. Sharpen it through daily training. Your mind is already a weapon. Hone it through constant challenge. Your spirit is already a weapon. Polish it through unwavering discipline. Begin each day with this understanding. You are not practicing to become something. You are sharpening what you already are. Every movement, every breath, every moment of focus is not adding something new, but revealing the weapon that exists beneath the layers of dullness. When I faced my greatest opponents, I did not try to become something I was not. I simply expressed what I was with perfect clarity, with razor sharpness, with absolute purpose. This is the ultimate expression of the warrior's path, not becoming, but revealing. Your training from this day forward must shift from acquisition to refinement. Do not seek to add more techniques, more knowledge, more complexity. Seek, instead, to sharpen what you already possess until it cuts through any challenge with effortless power. This is not about settling for what you are now. A dull blade is still a blade, but it must be sharpened to fulfill its purpose. Every aspect of your being must be honed, your physical movement, your mental clarity, your spiritual resolve. Each day should end with a sharper edge than it began. I have seen warriors spend lifetimes trying to become something they imagine is greater than what they are. They die still seeking, never realizing that everything they needed was already within them, waiting only to be sharpened to its true potential. Your modern world constantly tells you that you need more techniques, more equipment, more knowledge. But a warrior knows that true power comes not from adding more, but from sharpening what is essential until it becomes extraordinary. Start today. Look at your training not as a process of becoming, but as a ritual of sharpening. Feel the difference in your practice when you shift from seeking to refining, from becoming to revealing, from adding to honing. Remember, the weapon you seek is not something future or external. It is present now, in every breath you take, every movement you make, every choice you face. Your only task is to sharpen it daily until it reveals its true nature. When doubt arises, and it will arise, remember that a sword does not doubt its nature as a sword. It simply needs regular sharpening to express that nature fully. You are the same. Trust in what you already are, and focus your energy on honing it to perfection. For in this final teaching lies the ultimate truth of the warrior's path. You are already everything you need to be. Your task is not to become something else, but to sharpen yourself daily until you cut through every obstacle, every challenge, every battle with the pure expression of your warrior's spirit.